This thing may look really ugly, but it might just be one of the best throwing devices I've ever made. I can't get it out! Hello and welcome back to another episode of Screen Tested. I am your host Tyrant, where we take things from movies, TV shows, pop culture, try to create them in the real world and test them one-to-one from the media that they come from. Now in today's episode we're going to be taking a look at another throwing weapon, the Krull glaive from the 1983 film Krull. Now this is a weird episode because usually when I do an episode on something I am learned in whatever the subject matter is. I've watched the film, I've watched the TV show, I've played the game, whatever it may be. But that isn't the case today. I have not seen this film. I've only seen the Krull glaive used in like clips and stuff. I think it looks interesting and it has some interesting abilities, shall we say. But I don't actually know anything beyond that. I don't know any of the lore. I don't know really what it is. So yeah, I'm kind of flying a little bit blind today. But that doesn't really matter for the purposes of testing because we're going to be testing it as a weapon for the most part. So I don't really need any of the backstory or lore. However, it's just one of those things where I thought I should let you guys know because usually I know the subject matter. I know the subject matter. But yes, the Krull glaive is a throwing weapon, and from what I can tell from the clips that I've seen, it basically can do everything. It can do everything. So replicating any of that is going to be not possible, but we'll give it a go anyway, and we'll see how it performs as a regular throwing weapon, at the very least. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've never really understood the fascination with throwing weapons. I don't know why anyone would want to carry a weapon for the explicit purpose of throwing it away. It just seems kind of stupid to me. They seem to have a lot of drawbacks. First up, you need a very large amount of skill to use them. Then on top of that, you're throwing away an effective weapon. Their effective range is as far as you can throw, which isn't that far, relatively speaking. And then on top of that, they do require a little bit of luck just to work in general. I don't really like weapons that are based on luck. I much prefer weapons that can be trusted and useful. Now that's obviously not to put them in the same category as something like a bow or a gun. They are very effective, very useful, and you can be very accurate with them, and they don't require that much luck. You know, I have no idea why they keep calling these things glaives. The blade glaive, the Krull glaive. I actually think it was Krull that might have coined the term glaive for a throwing weapon in sci-fi and fantasy, because from my understanding, that's not what a glaive is at all. A glaive is usually a type of like polearm. I think most typically it has like a single-edged blade attached to a long haft. These things are not that, obviously. They are throwing weapons. But for some reason, they are called glaives. No idea why. Maybe in the comments you guys can let me know because I have no idea. Glaive. So the build process for the Krull glaive, rather simple and straightforward, honestly. I picked up 5 knives that had a nice little curve to them that was very reminiscent of the glaive from the movie. So the first thing I did was take off the plastic scales, and then I cut all of the tangs with my Dremel tool, and then after that I put a screw right through the center of all of them after laying the blades out equally. Then I covered them in epoxy so that the blades wouldn't move and hopefully stay in position. I also covered it in a generous helping of electrical tape to give it a little bit more mass and something that I could hold on to for the most part. Then I used some gold thermal tape to give it the last of its look. Rather simple, straightforward, easy build process for the most part. So let's get to some of the B-roll and then we can get to the testing. Look, I've made plenty of things in my time. I've hand-carved wooden tables. I've made lightsabers into pieces of art. I've done a lot. And this thing is by far the most ugliest thing that I've ever made. This thing is fugly. But it doesn't really matter how it looks, because we all know it's the personality that matters. The functionality that matters. Same difference. We are going to be putting it to the test. The Krull glaive is finally ready to be tested, and I'm wearing my big gloves because this thing is dangerous. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. So I've got some things that I'm going to be throwing it at, as per usual. Then we'll even use Tony as a test subject, and of course the tree. So let's get started and see how well our Krull glaive does. All right, first throw. Let's see how this goes. I missed. But, oh shit, that is deep. Holy, that was a good 1.5 inches, maybe more. Now that was such a sharp cut, you probably think that I didn't hit the bottle. You ready? 3, 2, 1. I think my point is made. That did that. That was genuinely a unmitigated success. That worked absolutely incredible. We destroyed the bottle and then it tore a hole through the armor into Tony. Another practical throwing weapon, it may seem. Ah, we got a bounce. Now, like I said, when we were building this, I obviously can't do all the stuff they do in the movie because I'm not magic and this thing isn't magic. But to be fair, it does seem like a pretty solid throwing weapon. I mean, if I was to make more robust blades, I think this thing would last way longer. The only detriment that I can kind of see at the moment is handling it. It's honestly pretty gnarly. All right, so it works really, really well. It's very sharp. However, the blades are getting some warping, but obviously that is more of a quality issue than anything else. However, why don't we try against Tony? Now, I know we did before and we got a massive gash and we cut like a 2-inch hole in him, but I'm curious to see if I can get past the leather itself, because that leather armor has held up against quite a lot of stuff. Things like the Wolverine claws, even the blade throwing glaive, the other glaive, it held up against. So let's see if the Krull glaive, all these glaives, let's see if this Krull glaive can actually get through it. Perhaps it can, but it might have missed the armor. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, that's pretty definitive, if I'm being completely honest with you. Pretty definitive. That one was deep. I saw that. That was deep. Okay, this thing was pretty practical for the most part, and it was able to be thrown consistently, just like the blade glaive. However, a big difference is the build quality. This one is kind of on its last legs now. It's kind of all f***ed up. This one, though, is still perfectly fine and can be used in perpetuity for the most part. But in terms of throwing this one of the biggest negatives is there's not really anywhere good to hold it because you have razor sharp edges everywhere. If I throw it like this, I am going to cut straight into my hands, and it's kind of a similar issue with something like this. However, when you hold it by the tips, it doesn't really make it any better. I feel like no matter what, you're just wearing gloves with this one. This one though, I could just throw normally and it was no big deal at all. So the Krull glaive, is it practical? Could you use it? Yeah, it's pretty deadly, to be honest. Yeah, deadly. Oh, okay, so that's going to be the end of today's episode. You see, I don't like throwing weapons for a lot of different reasons, which I've mentioned before. And the main one being, you have to throw them away. And now I've just thrown away my weapon, and now it's gone. So with that, thanks for watching, guys. And as always, I'll see you in another video. Have a good one.